Hi everyone and welcome back to ThursDev. I got sidetracked again last week because of a great question by one of our viewers, but that's just kind of the nature of having important things to say on a weekly show. This week, however, it's a very conscious and personal decision. You see, every week that I plan out an episode of ThursDev, I start by doing a lot of prototyping and a lot of research. Unlike my serious Sundays where I make glaring mistakes like getting the engine for a game wrong in a talk about game engines, that's more of a stream of consciousness podcasty type thing where I mostly attempt to get one point across. As far as ThursDev goes, I take factual accuracy pretty seriously. So I was doing a large amount of research on game AI for interesting new things to say, and I thought that I'd go right to one of the best sources available, the Game Developers Conference. For those of you who aren't already aware, last week was the week of GDC 2016, which is an annual event held in San Francisco. There are also other regional GDC events in Europe and China called appropriately GDC Europe and GDC China, which are held at different parts of the year. Anyway, we talked about GDC briefly on Serious Sunday recently. It's an amazing conference where a whole bunch of game developers get together in one place and talk game development. And among the many symposia and talks every year, there's an event held during GDC known as the AI Summit, which is essentially a forum for AI programmers to get together and talk about game AI. In some cases, they'll rant and generally riff about solutions to AI problems and generally talk shop. I've never personally had the opportunity to attend an AI summit, as both GDCs that I've attended during my career had me locked up in a nearby hotel at business meetings, but I always like to take the time afterward to check them out on GDC Vault, which I've linked down below. If you're at all interested in AI, I suggest that you take the time to take a look. A lot of the GDC Vault is stuck behind a paywall, but you'll find a fair bit of AI-related content, as well as no small amount of other content on the site's free section as well. Go there, digest it. It's there for you to experience. I'll get back to AI on ThursDev eventually, but if you've been chomping at the bit for 2 weeks now and want me to shut up about things that aren't directly related to AI, I'm sorry, but maybe this will help to tide you over for a little while. But back to my point, and I promise that there is one. I was watching a video from the AI Summit's Turing Tantrum sessions from back in 2015, and very early in the talk I came across this rant by a guy named Ben Sunshine Hill, who is the lead developer of Havoc AI. He came in very hot right from the start of his tantrum, criticizing AI programmers for making their jobs being useful to designers and essentially wasting time learning to speak designerese. He threw out a photo of Peter, the entire industry's punching bag Molyneux, as an accompaniment to this statement with the caption, "I'm making shit up as I go." Now, I'm making a point to draw attention to the more inflammatory of his statements, which were obviously tailored to elicit a response. His ultimate point, which was that AI programmers should take ownership of their domain and be experimentative and make something spectacular instead of being risk-averse, I totally support as a backing statement. But his assertion, or more likely overgeneralization, is that designers will ruin your work if you give them the opportunity to mess with it. Entertainingly, in the very next rant by Bobby Angelov, animation technical lead at WB Games Montreal, pointed out that the mere mention of making AI data-driven, thereby giving access to content people, as he put it, was perceived as near-apocalyptic by other programmers. Over the course of the entire session of rants, I noticed that this was a major topic of discussion on which I assumed there was going to be a lot more about AI. It referenced things like designer speak, and most of the talks went back and forth on whether programmers should even be making use of scripting languages or keeping things within C++ where it was safe. It was all very educational, but at the end of the day, the largest thing for me, a game designer, that I took away from it was that there's a huge perception within the game industry that designers have no idea what they're talking about, and that worries me. I'm not going to say that we always do. If the talks during the AI Summit are anything to be believed, there's a lot of designers out there who haven't the first clue, but wherever this happens, this is a huge problem. A week ago, I said that it's the designer's responsibility to attempt to understand enough about what everyone else in their studio does to be able to talk to them without looking like an idiot. It feels like this is an even more widespread problem in the industry than I assumed, so I'd like to restate my case again, anecdotally, and entreat other designers and design hopefuls to my side of the fence. See, it's been way too common in my experience to perceive some sort of institutionalized mutual distrust of team members in different disciplines, even within the same company. If programmers perceive designers as being this cadre of ruinous, ignorant problem children, then they're going to be reluctant to work with us when we need their help, and they're going to roll their eyes at us when we need to go to them with real, pertinent questions about how to solve design problems using technical solutions. Similarly, if we as designers start to distrust our programmers, or indeed any other faction within game development, or even more self-destructively start to think that we know more about what they do than they themselves do, we're just going to not only shoot ourselves in the foot, but we're going to be wrong, and our designs are going to be bad. You see, the thing about game design is, unless you're writing a really shitty game design document, you should always, without fail, strive to answer a few crucial questions every time you put something down to text. What does this contribute to the game? How much work and by whom is going to be involved in the realization of this part of the game? How can it be accomplished in the simplest way possible? And can I reliably explain to anyone who might need to ask what I'm trying to do? If you can't answer these questions, or even worse if you aren't thinking about these questions, eventually you're going to run into problems. I have the luxury of being in a small studio, where when I have a question I need to pose to one of the other members of my team, I often don't even have to get up out of my chair to ask it. When I'm roughing out a new feature for a game I'm working on, the first person I always talk to is a programmer, and I have one that sits directly next to me, about how difficult it would be to accomplish that mechanic, even if in vague terms, to get a feel for how to gauge its cost-value ratio. I say this nearly every video, but I'm not a programmer. I have no clue how to accomplish most of the sorcery that game programmers routinely lay down, and for that reason, my barometer for how easy or how hard something should be to accomplish is often wrong. There's a perfect XKCD comic that demonstrates this problem. It's not to say that we always make wild demands like our designer, producer, project manager, or whatever else the guy on the left may be. And at least in games, everything the game typically has to understand is all self-contained, but even so, people in my department are prone to making requests like this, asking for something without first understanding why it may or may not be too difficult to accomplish. And this is why we can't have nice things. So here we are, I've identified a problem, but what's the solution? This will be easier for some than others. The best solution, of course, would be to first figure out whether we're the kind of designer we're trying not to become here. Introspection is hard. We really don't want to be that guy, so we try to deny it even when we obviously are. But for our own sakes, let's try to be objective about it. How often do you consult with other team members about the stuff that you're designing? If that frequency is low, figure out why it's low. Do you genuinely have no need of the input of the people who are going to be taking your designs and turning them into reality? Maybe you're designing something that is so ubiquitous in the industry that it needs no explaining, since everyone should be able to accomplish it. If you think you already know the solution to a specific problem, only a dick is going to have a problem with you asking them if something you're planning works the way you think it does. Eventually, if your design won't work, someone is going to have to say that it won't work eventually anyway, and then the mechanic is going to need to be rewritten anyway, so better that it gets done early on, right? Other team members aren't off the hook though. I'm harsh on designers because I am one, and I always hear about this perceived lack of quality among my peers, and I always think, wow, what can I do to avoid being that guy? But communication is a two-way street as well. There's this stupid wall between content and engineering people, and this stupid hierarchy within both, where everyone's really eager to point fingers when something goes wrong. But a lot of things can be avoided by getting others to sign off on your shit before it's lumped on someone else's plate. And that's the job of the designer. Unless we're working in a vacuum, our work is that of an interpreter of abstract concepts into workable designs. Sometimes that interpretation requires a little nudge in the right direction, so if a designer or a producer or a salesperson comes up to you and asks for your input or your sign-off on a mechanic, give them the time of day. Tell them if it's doable or not, or if it might be doable at least. If they aren't an idiot, they'll take that to heart and make something of it. If we can get past our own bullshit, That's when the actual quality games get made. So don't be that guy. You don't have to be everyone's friend, but communicate with everyone else so that you don't make an ass of yourself down the line. Because the moment that fingers need to be pointed, everyone's failed. And that's it for my rant for today. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Till next time, take care.